Good morning, everyone. This morning I'm the substitute of Hoku. Hoku somehow went to South Carolina?
North Carolina.
North Carolina to help people in need. Anyway, after summer practice period ended, I visited Japan for 2.5 weeks, and from September 16th until October 5th, for 25 days I visited Europe. So during this summer I was not here so often. Even when I was here I was quiet. And Hoku and my plan was I'm quiet or almost dead until November Gendo started. This is a kind of a Hoku and my plan for the process of transition. We thought, Hoku became the full-time vice abbot in June or July this year. So we need some change, and I need to make change in myself. I mean, this process of transition is the process of I'm how can I say, gradually disappearing. In order to do so, I think I need to make the difference or transition or change my relation with Sanshinji. That means I moved to Sanshinji 15 years ago, and before that there's nothing. This is the first Soto Zen temple in the state of Indiana. So the Zen center of Bloomington was still there, already there. But as a Sangha of Sanshinji, we need to start from scratch. And since we moved here, to me, Sanshinji is almost my life. Sanshinji is myself. I thought, I think I actually wrote in somewhere that Sanshinji is third child of mine. So that is how I relate myself to this temple and this Sangha. I try to do anything I need to do without considering so-called job description. But now, when Hoku comes in, this isn't, I should not think this is me. It's not healthy anymore. So within myself, I have to cut off this relation between me and my child, Sanshinji, and I became only a part of Sanshinji. So I need making some space between myself and Sanshinji and the Sangha. To do so, I thought it was a good idea when Hoku became a full-time abbot. I, in a sense, stepped down a little bit. Then, within this gap, Hoku can fill in. And so far, I think this idea works well. I mean, without me, people in this Sangha continue to practice, and Hoku is, leading the practice. and all of you help support her. And I'm really glad to see that. Anyway, so I think this shows that the process of transition is going well so far, and I hope it continues already 4.5 years until I really retire. I'm retired from the position of abbot, but I don't think I can retire from my practice. So, but I have to think, how can I continue to practice without responsibility as a teacher, and with this, aging body and mind. And that is my next kind of goal for next 5 years. Anyway, this morning I'd like to continue to talk on this text, opening the hand of thought. Last time, I think that was beginning of September, I started to talk on the section entitled Magnanimous Mind. If we have this book, page 127. So I'd like to talk on the third paragraph of this page. He means Uchiyama Roshi, start to talk about magnanimous mind. Let me read this paragraph. To look at what is meant by magnanimous mind, or in Japanese, Daishin, we need to look at how we see others when we experience the reality of life itself. This reality of life is self-connected to all things. Through it, we live that life of the whole self that has not limit, and that nothing is outside of. So, no matter what happens, we are always living out the life of self that is only self. In this paragraph, I think this is what I always talking about, so maybe I don't need to repeat. But somehow, because Uchiyama Roshi discuss again, I talk about this, life of the whole self that has no limit and that nothing is outside of it. The reality of life in Japanese is seimei, no jitsu butsu. Seimei is life, and no is over. Jitsu is true, real, or genuine, and butsu is thing. So jitsu butsu literally means real thing. And probably Uchiyama Roshi used this word jitsu butsu. Real thing is the opposite of fake thing, or something conceptual. That is not real thing, but real thing is actually there, and we can see and experience. And probably Uchiyama Roshi used this modern colloquial Japanese expression as a translation of traditional Buddhist term as Jisso. Jisso is the word appeared in the very important expression from the Lotus Sutra. That is Shoho, part of Shoho Jisso. Shoho is all beings or all things. And I translate this so as true reality of all beings. And that is, as I always said, about the reality of interconnectedness throughout space and time. And self-connected to all things, self-connected to all things is another expression which Okumura often used. Jin Issai Jiko. Jin is all or whole or entire, and Issai means everything, all things. And Jiko is self. Okumura used this expression, Jin Issai Jiko. And this came from Dogen Zenji's expression. Connection with this teaching of Shoho Jisso, true reality of all beings in the Lotus Sutra. So that is what I'd like to talk this morning. I'd like to introduce what Dogen Zenji wrote about this expression, Jin Issai. This came from Shobo Genzo, Yui Butsu Yobutsu. Yui Butsu Yobutsu. Dogen Zenji used this expression, Yui Butsu Yobutsu, quite often. And he wrote this fascicle of Shobo Genzo entitled Yui Butsu Yobutsu. And Yui Butsu Yobutsu means Yui is only, and Butsu is Buddha, and Yo is together. So only Buddha together with Buddha. And this is a part of the sentence in the Lotus Sutra that says, Yui Butsu Yobutsu Naino Gujin.
Before you erase that, in the upper right-hand corner is the word Butsu, referring to thing, in the upper right-hand corner.
A different kanji.
Which one?
So, yes,
this
yes.
one?
Yeah. Is that the same as the Butsu that you just wrote?
No.
Or the second
No,
one?
completely different.
Okay, sure sounds the same.
Sound is the same. Sound is the same. But meaning is different. This Butsu is a thing.
Yeah.
Mono, not Buddha. Okay? Okay, what is said in the Lotus Sutra is Yui Butsu, Yo Butsu, Nai no Yu Jin Shoho Jisso. That means only Buddhas, together with Buddhas, other Buddhas. Yoku means able to or can. Gujin is completely, Jin is completely, same Jin. Perfectly, Q or Gu means penetrate, really understand. Shoho Jisso means true reality of all beings. So only Buddhas, together with Buddhas, can or are able to completely penetrate the true reality of all beings. So that means the Lotus Sutra is saying this true reality of all beings can be penetrated only by Buddhas, no human beings. That is the meaning of this sentence. So in the beginning of the second chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Shariputra asked to Shakyamuni to explain what the teaching of the Lotus Sutra, the Mahayana Sutra. Then Shakyamuni rejected. This reality of all beings is beyond the reach of human beings. Only Buddha can, together with Buddha, can penetrate. So it's no use to explain to you. That is, I think this came from the Buddha's biography. When Shakyamuni attained awakening under the Bodhi tree, he had hesitation because the Dharma or truth he discovered was too deep, too profound and subtle, so no human beings could understand. So he didn't want to teach. The same thing happened in the beginning of this chapter of the Lotus Sutra. But same as the Indian god, Brahman asked Shakyamuni 3 times. Shariputra did the same thing, asked him 3 times. Then he started to talk about this true reality of all beings. So in that sense, what the Lotus Sutra is saying is this true reality of all things is the Dharma or truth or reality Buddha awakened to when he became Buddha. So the Lotus Sutra is saying only Buddha together with Buddha can understand this true reality of all beings. And as always, Dogen twisted this expression, Yoibutsu Yobutsu, only Buddha together with Buddha, means, as the Lotus Sutra said, as a 10 suchness, that is, each and every unique thing can exist only in the relation or connection with all beings throughout space and time. And how Dogen did this Yobutsu is everything existing within this network of interdependence origination is Buddha. No human beings are there, no deluded human beings, or no sentient or insentient beings, but all of them are Buddha. So Buddhas and Buddhas are working together. Probably that is how Dogen did this expression, Yoibutsu Yobutsu. And in this fascicle, please.
I was just wondering about the kanji there, nai. The kanji at the top, nai.
This one?
Yeah, that comes up in the Heart Sutra, I think, naishi no.
Yes. Nai, in the Hatha Sutra it said Nai Shi. Nai Shi means Nai, or this character is read as Sunawachi. Sunawachi is as it is. But this compound Naishi means in the Hatha Sutra it said, for example, about 12 links of causation. The Sutra said, the first link is mumyo, or ignorance, and last link is aging and dying, muroshi jin. So that is 12 links. Between first and 12, all 10 links are what is the word? Not mentioned. Not mentioned, but Naishi means all those things from
like
here
the
to there
three dots.
are there. That is what Naishi.
Okay.
And in this case, Sunawachi means, what is Sunawachi? Do you know? Sunawachi means as it is, or what is another English word? Sunawachi.
And thus?
These things as it is that. So this thing and that thing are exactly the same thing. But here it's different. Only Buddha, together with Buddha, Sunawachi, I don't know.
It's okay.
Sunawachi yoku, Sunawachi yoku. Sunawachi yoku kujinsu. Sunawachi.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. Anyway, in this first group, Dogen says about the self and the entire, the word Dogen used here is Jin Daichi. Daichi is great earth, and Jin is the same Jin, that is entire or total, whole, great earth, and the self. What Dogen says in Shobo Genzo Yuibutsu Yobutsu is also we should hear and understand that the entire great earth is itself the Dharma body of ourself. So this entire great earth is the Dharma body of this self. It is the determined mind. It is the determined mind of living beings that we seek to know ourselves. Does this make sense? This means all living beings want to understand who we are. Especially human beings, we need to understand, or we need to study the self. That is what Dogen said. We need to study the self because we can make, all different kind of fake or delusive idea about the self. So we really need to study who we are or what is the self. And yet, this is his favorite word, and yet it is rare that an eye sees the eye itself. That means to see what is the self is to see is like to see I want to see I itself. So it's really difficult to see who we are. So, and yet it is rare that an I sees the I itself. Only Buddha knows this. So this is what Dogen is saying. We cannot see ourselves and judge ourselves and define who we are. Only Buddha can do that. Means when we are thinking about who I am, this I is already not this I who is thinking. So in this case, this I separate into two parts. One is I who is thinking what is I, and another is the object of this person's thinking. So already this is not the real thing. This is already, how can I say,
You can't objectify the subjective.
right.
And Alan Watts used the metaphor that the light from a flashlight does not illuminate itself.
Yeah. So for human beings, human way of thinking, when we are thinking, the person who is thinking cannot be seen. So whatever we think about ourselves is objectified already, something fake, not the real thing. So no human beings can see who we are. And Dogen said, only Buddha can see it. Then what is the difference between human beings and Buddha? That is at one point of this fascicle. The others, such as non-Buddhists and so on, vainly think that something which does not exist is the self. Something which is which does not exist is their self. Means I think Dogen meant Atman. You know, Atman is named self, but Shakyamuni said this doesn't exist. So, and actually, as I often said, this Atman is the production of our mind, 5 skandhas. And 5 skandhas reify this concept and make it Atman. And we or 5 skandhas think this is permanent and owner and operator of these 5 skandhas. Even though 5 skandhas produce this Atman or the self, but Buddha said that such a thing doesn't exist. So when Dogen discusses what is a self is not this Atman. Then he said, the self talked about by the Buddha is nothing other than the entire great earth. So this entire great earth is the self. That is what Buddha, or the self talked by Buddha. That means this self and everything within this entire great earth are one. So that means the self and things, everything. This self is everything existing within the entire world together with this self is the self. This is what Jin Issai Jiko means.
This great earth, do you think that he means by that all things, the entire universe? Or is he referring just to the planet?
All things.
Yeah.
Not, this Daichi.
Yeah.
I don't think Dogen knew about the solar system and space beyond solar system. So Jin Daichi is his entire world.
Great universe would be better.
Probably, yeah. That's why Uchamura's uses universe instead of great earth. And he said, for this reason, for all of us, whether we know it or not, by ourselves, there is no entire great earth, that is not ourself. This is what Dogen said, and a little later he also said, he's talking about the practice, our practice and Buddha's practice. Also, all the Buddhas in the 3 times have already practiced, attained the way, and completed realization. All Buddhas have already completed the practice and attained realization or awakening. How should we understand that these Buddhas and we are equal? He's saying all of us within this entire network of interdependent origination and Buddhas who have completed their practice and attained realization are equal. This is a strange idea. But this is a question. How should we understand that these Buddhas and we are equal? We are still very much, deluded. Then Dogen said, first of all, for a while, we should understand the Buddha's practice. We should understand the Buddha's practice or nature of Buddha's practice. That is, the Buddha's practice is done together with the entire great earth and the entirety of all living beings. So, what he's saying, before thinking about how we can be the equal with all Buddhas, we have to think the nature of all Buddhas' practice. All Buddhas are practicing for the sake of or together with all beings and the entire universe. And with their entire universe, we are included. So I think in Dogen's mind, this maybe that was not so terribly unskillful, but this image of how all beings are existing together with all beings throughout space and time. And he said this entirety is the Dharma body of the self. And also this entire network is Buddha's Dharma body. because Dharma body means the way things are in this entire interconnectedness. And that is the Dharma body of ourselves. In that sense, because all Buddhas who practiced for many lifetimes and attained enlightenment or realization have been working together with all beings. It should not be Buddha's personal benefit. So all Buddhas have been practicing and accomplish awakening with all beings, and we are at least one of all beings. And when we think this interconnectedness, we are also interconnected with all beings. In that sense, what Buddha awakened and how we are existing is the same thing. The difference is we don't know, and we can't see this oneness, because we think, when we think always separation between subject and object. So when we think about this, even this entire network, we are, in my thinking, this entire network is objectified. Then this already become a concept, and I'm thinking about this concept. So there's no way we can jump out of this structure as far as we are thinking, using concept, and in which subject and object are separate. Then how can we go beyond this dichotomy between subject and object? And one answer from Zen is stop thinking and letting go of thought. Then we cannot see, we cannot see or think of it. But when we just sit and let go of this subject-object dichotomy, even in our brain it's still there. But we are, from the beginning, we are existing right there, within the reality in which there's no such subject-object separation. So our zazen, sitting and letting go of thought, means letting go of these dichotomies. Then it's not a matter of I can see or I can understand, but this practice of sitting actualize this reality beyond separation, beyond dichotomy. So in our zazen we stop, stop thinking using either structure of subject thinking about the object. Even the object is the self as the object is not already this person. So
we stop dualizing, maybe you could say.
Right. Or we stop thinking. Even though thinking is still happening in our brain, but as I said, even though we thoughts are coming and going, but we don't think. We are sitting on the ground of this non-duality. And this entire body and mind, including duality, is part of this non-duality. That is very strange idea, I think, for us who think you only thinking within this structure. But so that is why we need practice in order to really understand. When we, repeat this idea, thousands of times, as far as we are thinking, we are not there. There's no way to go beyond this dichotomy. But when we stop letting go of thought and just sitting, we are from the beginning, or before we think, or before we are born, we are there. Please.
I'm not sure this is directly connected, but it reminds me of some wording from the Ryaku Fusatsu. It says, there's no inch of ground on the earth or something.
Yeah.
Is it related to this in any way?
I think so. That means inch of ground is a part of great earth. So we are like an inch of ground. But when we let go of this clinging, as I often said, 5 aggregate or 5 skandhas cling to themselves, to cling to 5 skandhas. Then 5 skandhas become 5 upadana skandhas. When 1 inch of ground clinging to this 1 inch of ground, and this is me, and this is different rest of the great earth.
Is another way of looking at that.
Yeah,
There is no inch of ground because there are no inches, because inches are arbitrary inventions of mind projected on there, and therefore they're not.
so there's no such separation between 1 inch of ground and the entire great earth. That's why Dogen put emphasis on practice. Thinking about this idea doesn't work, but we need to do it. Then we are there. As I often talk, when I first received that instruction from the teacher at Okumura University, I was 19 years old. The teacher said, your first zazen, and the zazen that's done by very experienced practitioner, or even Dogen's zazen, is the same zazen. I didn't understand what this means, but now I think I understand what this means. This means, and I really think my zazen when I did when I was 19, and my zazen I do more than 50 years later, it's the same zazen. There's no good and bad, or getting better or getting worse. Zazen is zazen. But of course, 19-year-old Shohaku is different from 70-year-old Shohaku. When I was 19, I didn't even understand what this means. But now I think I can explain, and I think I understand what he meant. But this understanding is still idea. But in my zazen, when I was 19, I had so many foolish questions, and with no understanding. But I had to sit and let go of those foolish questions. And now I hope I have some understanding about Dharma, or Dogen's teaching, or Buddha's teaching. But when I sit, I have to let go. So the value of zazen has not depended on what kind of thought, whether foolish or wise, doesn't, how can I say, has nothing to do. Zazen is zazen, whether we let go of foolish idea or let go of, what I have to talk, today, this morning. I have to let go during, last period of the Zen. So, whatever, those thoughts might be different. And my thinking today, 50 years later, might be a little bit developed, when I compare on the basis of so-called Buddhist teaching. I know more knowledges, and I hopefully I have deeper understanding. But when I sit, I have to let go of either. Then we cannot evaluate Zazen based on what kind of thought we let go, because it go. So, the essence of our Zazen is letting go. Then we become part of this interconnectedness, and that's all.
Using that image of the finger pointing at the moon, maybe at a younger age your finger's kind of it's not very precise, but maybe over time you get more skilled at pointing more directly. Maybe.
Or even I pointed completely different direction. Yeah, so it's not a matter of which direction the finger is pointed, but when we just sit and try to stop trying to find what it is as an object of this person's idea, then we are from the beginning right there, and being supported by all beings. And this is Buddha's compassion. So Buddha's compassion is working even before we didn't know such a thing. And when we started to search and think about it, and for example, reading Buddhist texts, those things become the object of my thinking. And the amount of knowledge or understanding might be developed, but that has nothing to do with this very basic reality. We can be there even without knowing about so-called Buddha's teaching, or even with no idea about even spiritual practice or even meditation. When people really just do it and letting go of the separation between self and others, even like dancing or playing music or just running, can be allow us to be there when we are free from this what is the word, subject-object separation. So what he is saying is we should think from the nature of Buddha's practice. And within Buddha's practice, we are already there. That means we are part of Buddha's practice. So let me read it again. First of all, for a while, we should understand the Buddha's practice. The Buddha's practice is done together with the entire great earth and the entirety of all living beings. So this entirety is Buddha's practice, and we are part of it. Therefore, Dogen said, if it is not done together with the entirety of all beings, this entirety of all beings is Jin Issai. This is a word, expression which Roshi used. If it is not done together with the entirety of all beings, it cannot be the Buddha's practice. It cannot be Buddha's. So Buddha's practice is all done together with all beings within this entire great earth. And if we are Bodhisattva, that means Buddha's children, our practice should have the same quality. That means our practice is also done together with all beings. So Dogen Zenji himself didn't use this particular expression, Jin Issai Jiko. But Uchamura took this Jin Issai and Jiko from different parts and make it one expression, Jin Issai Jiko. That is the self that is practicing together with all beings within this structure of interconnectedness.
Why are we using the word practice? Why not use Buddha's insight or Buddha's reality?
Practice or gyo is part of the longer expressions in Buddhism. That is kyo, gyo, shin, sho. Kyo is teaching. Teaching is expression of Dharma using language. When about the kyo, about the teaching, we can think. And the gyo is practice. And the shin is faith or belief. And the sho is verification. So actually this is one thing. It's not four separate things. That means when we practice the teaching. If we don't practice what Buddha taught, then our practice is not a Buddhist practice. And in order to practice Buddha's teaching, we need to have shin. Shin is faith or belief or trust. And when we start to practice, we don't completely understand what the teaching means. But so when we start to practice, we need shin. Not only when we start to practice, but when we practice, we need faith or trust. That means, even though Dogen says we and the entire great earth are from the beginning one, to me, at least to me, it's difficult to understand. So we need faith or trust to what Dogen wrote, or what Buddha said. And show verification is evidence or proof or verification. That is through all of this teaching, studying teaching, and practicing, and trusting or believing, those are the verification of what Buddha taught is true. So when Dogen says Gyo, of course Gyo is most important. Gyo is real thing. But when we use for example insight sounds like the way I view things. That is function of our brain. That can be, I can be insight. I can have insight without practice. But if insight is meaningful, it came out of practice. And what is another word you said? Insight or
reality. Because
reality.
we were using the phrase Buddha's practice.
Mm-hmm. Reality can be something outside of ourselves. And we can think, is this reality or fake? So I think in Dogen's teaching, reality can be expressed through our practice. And if our understanding or insight is really from our practice, then these are not merely a concept. So I think for Dogen, this practice, actually doing is the basis of all those, how can I say, in a sense, how our brain works as tools to express the Dharma.
You know, the character that you're translating from the Japanese as practice, I've seen it used in Taoist metaphysics that would translate more along the lines of a condition of being.
Condition
A
of
condition of being or a mode of existing. Now, I wonder if that translation might work. So I mean, in English, practice sounds like you're rehearsing for something.
This Chinese character also means to go,
Yes.
move. And this character is also used as a, what is gyo? Shiki, Ju, So, Gyo, Shiki. This formation is also gyo. Formation, what is formation? Sanskara. Is translated as gyo. That means that makes us move and make us doing something. That is a function of fourth skandha.
Well, I think in Chinese medicine, it's also the word used for the elements, fire, water, earth, air.
Yeah. So this gyo has many various meanings in Chinese language. But basically, when Dogen uses this gyo is to practice, actually doing it without, using entire body and mind, 5 skandhas.
You know, practice isn't always to rehearse. I mean, we say practice medicine or practice law.
Yeah.
That's not really
I guess
rehearsing.
that's a good point.
So in this case, at least in Dogen's case, practice is not a method to attain something, achieve something, but practice is itself realization. That is what Shu, Sho, Ichinyo means. Well, sorry, it's already 11:20.
I just had one question. Isn't there also an element of hearing?
Hearing?
Like you hear the teaching? I thought when you
last
talked about the
That is another
that's a
expression. That is Mon Shishu Sho. Mon is hearing and she is thinking,
right.
and Shu and Gyo is the same thing, Shu Gyo. Mon, Shishu and Sho. This is more like a process of our practice, hearing the teaching and thinking about it. And if I think it's might be true or might be doable, then we put into practice. Then through practice, we understand and we verify, what I heard was really true. So this is more like a process of our practice. Okay, please.
In one of my classes, we've been studying Yogacara teaching, and specifically Vasubandhu's idea of the three natures. You have the imagined nature where we kind of mistake reality for something substantial when it's really just sort of an idea in our mind. Dependent nature is when you sort of see reality as dependent and empty. And then the perfected nature, where you sort of see reality as it is in a non-dual way. And it had me sort of thinking, since Sawaki Roshi studied Yogacara and Uchiyama Roshi learned from him, it seems like sometimes some of Uchiyama's expressions sound like they have a lot of Yogacara ideas in them. So I thought maybe, I wonder if you could say a little bit about that.
I think, you said, Sawaki Roshi and Uchiyama's teaching, influence of Yogacara can be seen. But I don't think Dogen studied Yogacara, because Yogacara and Tendai doesn't work together. So Uchiyama Roshi and Sawaki Roshi and Uchiyama's teaching, in a sense, how can I say, make Dogen's teaching more kind of interesting by using some part of Yogacara teaching. And about those three natures, that is basically delusion and interconnectedness and perfect nature. And I think Yogacara says on the second nature, interconnectedness, there's no delusion. That is the perfect nature. So perfect delusion or fantasy is that is clinging upadana. When upadana is dropped off, then just be interconnectedness, and that is perfect nature. So there are basically there are no such three nature are existing independently.
Yeah, they're both sort of ways of describing the second nature.
Because delusion means that doesn't exist, but somehow influence us. Okay.
And then I had a sort of second question too, because this class is all about Indian philosophy, and I keep sort of trying to think, well, like what school of Mahayana Indian philosophy is most like Zen or Dogen's Zen? And it seems like it's a combination of so many of these ideas.
Yeah, Zen people didn't like studying that kind of scholastic study of Buddha's teaching. So depending upon what they studied before starting Zen, some monks studied Tendai, other people studied Sanron or Yogacara or Madhyamika. So after they become a Zen master, they freely use what they studied before when they were young. So we cannot say, which is which. But another important Mahayana teaching influence to Chinese Zen is Tathagata Varva, I think. Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry I talked too long.